I saw like Loopkicks videos and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I was like, wait, this is in San Jose? Like this is, I found it on YouTube before I even knew that it was local. And then once I found it, I consider myself really lucky that I like kind of fell into, I was like privileged to where I was born.
What's up, guys? Today's guest is the owner of Loopkicks Gym. Please welcome to the JAMCast, Mark Rusmantijo.
Yo. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, I was having anxiety about your last name. And I just asked you 10 seconds before we rolled.
It's all good.
How do you pronounce it?
Rusmantijo. So I'm Chinese Indonesian.
I was going to say that's a unique one, but
Yeah.
Indonesian side probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are going to be surprised to see that you're actually like sitting across from me because obviously I'm in SoCal, you're in NorCal, but this worked out because you're down here for Thanksgiving.
Exactly. Yeah. So good to be here.
Perfect, man. I am so stoked. And it's going to be really funny because I'm in talks with Alex Hunter right now about doing an episode.
Nice.
And he's probably going to think I flew you down. He's going to be like, what? I thought we were doing on Skype. That's awesome, man. And how long will you be down here for?
I'm only here for the weekend, so I'm coming back home on like Sunday or something. We're driving back up.
Okay. And I know we were kind of having like a mini discussion off camera, and I try not to like blow my load before we get into recording, but what's the current state of affairs like up north compared to here? Like as of Wednesday, basically tonight when we're shooting this, they're banning all outdoor dining restaurants in Los Angeles. What's the situation in Northern California?
So I don't think it's as bad. So we went from we were in orange tier, which basically allows like gyms and stuff to be open. You could do some indoor seating. And then now, as of last Tuesday, we are now in the purple tier. So gyms are closed. You still can do outdoor dining, but everything else is pretty closed. So
wow, so you can do outdoor dining at least.
We still can do outdoor dining, but it's everything else is kind of like gyms and stuff. They're all kind of closed. So
damn, that's crazy. I feel like LA's been like purple the entire time. I don't know if it's because it's a Lakers color, but like we've just been stuck in this purple zone for like ever since March.
That's nuts. Bro. It seems like there's only like one gym open, and it's like.
Yeah.
Like not even like in the area, you have to like drive out.
It's like almost on the verge of Orange County, which is why I think they're getting away with it because Orange County, and that's what's so frustrating as a gym owner is that like you could drive an hour north of LA and an hour south of LA and they're totally open. And I mean, they're not even wearing masks at that gym.
Yeah, that's what it looks. It's crazy. It's like, it looks like half of them are wearing masks, half of them aren't. Like, so it's just like, oh.
Yeah. It's like, and when we had the brief 3-week period where we were allowed to open jam, we were like beyond cautious. Like everyone signs a COVID waiver, everyone's temperature scan. You have to wear masks 24/7. It's like, and I see these other gyms operating. I'm like, damn it. I just wish we were 40 miles south.
Dude, it's nuts. Like, it's crazy how inconsistent it is. Like, it's only like an hour drive, it doesn't make any sense.
It's so crazy to see the discrepancies between local governments. Like I never realized the impact that like local governments did have over you. You just imagine you're a citizen of the United States of America. But I mean, dude, you look at states like Texas and Florida right now, they're acting like it's spring break 2020, dude, dog.
Nuts.
It's crazy. God. And so with that being said, like obviously we introduced you as the owner of Loopkicks Gym and head instructor for that. Like I think I saw a post recently you guys had to close the gym down just recently, right? Yeah,
so we closed down I think like last Tuesday. Basically we closed initially in March, right? When everything happened, right? And then we closed down. We opened up for a little bit in a limited capacity we were allowed to run summer camps. So we did that and pushed that as long as we could. And then we opened up when Santa Clara County went back into the orange tier, which allowed us to open at a limited capacity at like 25 people. And then as of last week, we skipped down a whole 2 tiers and now we're back in purple. So we're closed and we can't do anything. So we're officially closed right now until further notice.
And so what are you guys doing during this time? Like us personally at Jam, when we're closed, a lot of people ask about online classes, but we're actually just fully closed. Right. What about you guys? You guys still functioning online in any capacity?
We're still doing, we started online classes maybe like a month into everything shutting down, so April-ish, and then I've been running that with Brian from CA Tricking.
Yes.
And so we're still running that. We're still running online classes, and we just kept it going the whole way. So ever since we closed, we're probably going to see those numbers go back up. So we're just kind of doing what we can to survive, basically.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's such a scary time, and it's been so frustrating because it's like I don't understand how restaurants are able to operate, and it's like you're allowed to take your mask off at a restaurant and COVID just suddenly stops transferring.
Yeah, exactly. And now in Santa Clara, we have a curfew at 10 p.m. because
Same here.
It's like, well,
10 p.m. to 5 a.m., right?
Yeah, it's just like, well, what difference does it make? I don't know. I don't get it.
It's like if clubs and parties and bars are closed, like who really is out between 10 and 5 anyways?
Exactly. I don't get it. So
it's a unique thing. And like we said, it's just like varying in such different areas, because I just interviewed Tommy Case, who will be the episode coming out this Friday. Yes. And Neo Motion Academy is open, but they're just like working at a limited capacity, like 50%
Yeah, that's what
capacity.
it looks like, yeah.
So it's a unique time, man. And just so people like maybe that are interested in trying to maintain their training during this time, as far as the online classes go, like what platform are you using? Where can people go to learn more about that? And how often are the classes?
So we're running everything off of Zoom right now. So if you want to take a look at that, it's loopkickstricking.com/online-classes. So the way we're running it right now, we're partnering with CA Tricking. So we have Brian and Adric, they're helping me out with the classes right now. We run it 3 times a week. So basically we just kind of split it up. We have with like Zoom rooms or like breakout rooms, we can like break it out by level and stuff like that. It's been challenging, but it's been working way better than I thought.
Okay.
Initially I thought like, oh, this is not going to work because I'm used to like coaching with like blocks and everything.
Totally.
But like, a lot of our students are like, they're kind of like intermediate-ish already. So if you think about it, it's like we're helping people who would already trick by themselves. Like, you know, like a lot of us, we are all self-taught anyway. We like, learned on grass, we learned on wherever, right? We, karate floor or whatever. And we're just kind of helping like those kids out. A lot of them are already do like martial arts, so they have like puzzle mats in their garage, or they go out to the park or whatever. And we've seen a lot of gains with those kids. So they're doing really well, actually.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's interesting to hear like the different way it works. Like we actually were doing free classes, just giving them away to our students via YouTube videos. But then we just started to see like a fall off, because I think a lot of people here personally at the beginner level just were lacking the comfort of a spring floor and the comfort of mats and the comfort of a foam pit. And so we were like, you know what, we're just going to completely just wait until we can reopen. But it's good to hear that there's some success stories like yourself and platforms for people to go to. You know?
Yeah, it's actually working out better than I thought, because initially it was some of like CA Tricking students, some of the Loopkicks students from the gym, but we've reached out to like get students from like all over. So we're not just doing our students, but it's open to anybody. So we've gotten like kids from like other states, or like even like we had some do like some classes from like out of the country. So it's kind of cool like that we have this like global influence that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Dope. And obviously you're based on the same time zone as us over here in California. But how many days a week are you running the classes, and how long are they?
They're 3 times a week, usually in late afternoons. We start at like 4. But right now we have a format where it's like 1 hour instructional and then an hour of like open gym, where they just kind of like let them train whatever, and then we'll just kind of like give you tips or stuff like that. And we feel like that format really helps, because, they just start working on the stuff they already work in class or other stuff, and then they start building that trick and creativity kind of thing.
Super cool, man. No, it's dope to see the success, and I'm a huge follower of everything you've been doing with not only the online classes, but obviously everything you've been doing with the entire gym and Loopkicks as a brand and stuff like that. And for those that don't know, if you're not a tricker and not within our community, you may not know the name Loopkicks, but as far as I have been alive and as far as I've been a member of the tricking community, Loopkicks has been synonymous with tricking, so much so that back in the days, there was even like a special that Chad Stahelski, some of our stunt listeners will know this, he's like the head of 8711, and he was doing a special behind the scenes talking about Jeremy Marinas and Denise Sherfa, and he even said like, we brought some loop kickers in, and it's because like it was almost synonymous with like being tricking back in the days, where people thought you were loop kicking, but it was actually tricking, and Loopkicks was just like the mecca and the home to some of the best trickers in the world.
Yeah.
And so did you grow up being a fan of Loopkicks, or like how did you get into it all, since you're, for lack of a better term, like generations way below all of us old
I'm
guys?
Like generation like 6 or 7. Yeah. I don't know how we count generations, but I'm like way down the line. Yeah. So I did martial arts at West Coast Martial Arts.
Okay.
So actually, Chris DeVera was one of my instructors. So I mean, I started doing, you know how it is. They have you start doing martial arts, and then I started doing tricks for martial arts, but I wasn't tricking really. And then I did like some local demo stuff, and then I learned tricking from Chris DeVera and some of my other instructors, and I started learning, double legs, B-twist, that kind of stuff. And then I got onto the West Coast Roll Action team, and then I did a lot of that first. I did a lot of training at the studio, and then eventually I started going to Loopkicks sessions. They were a little bit separate. There was kind of like a weird like tension between like the school and Loopkicks for a bit. But yeah, after a while, we just started going to sessions at Twisters, and yeah, it was great. Like, yeah, when I first started martial arts, I didn't even know about tricking. I was just like, I'll just do like normal stuff. And then I found tricking separately. I think I found like a Steve Tirada video.
Okay.
I was like, oh, this is really sick. Wish I could do that. And then, because, so Christopher was like my second instructor because he was at a different school. So once I moved into like a different branch, but like I saw like Loopkicks videos and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I was like, wait, this is in San Jose? Like this is, like, I found it on YouTube before I even knew that it was local. And then once I found it, like, so I consider myself really lucky that I like kind of fell into, I was like privileged to where I was born.
Bro, 100%. I was going to say, like, you're not spoiled by any means, but you literally were born into an area where you're just so blessed because for those that don't know who West Coast is, it's actually, you know, one of my inspirations growing up was watching the West Coast demo team. And I used to be a traditional Kung Fu martial artist. So seeing what they were doing and going to competitions and seeing them at shows, I was always like, damn, I want to wear that uniform. I want to do the line where they all like bow in a line and it like cadences off, you know, I'm like, that's so sick. And for those that don't know, it's actually founded and run by Ernie Reyes Sr. and Ernie Reyes Jr., who are legends in the martial arts game. For people that are old gen like myself, you'll know Ernie Reyes Jr. and his father from Surf Ninjas. And obviously Jr. was back in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle days. And so like literally you're born into a mecca of like this performance style martial arts. And then you're also born into the place where, you know, for a long time, people considered to be the hub of tricking for like 20 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
I definitely feel blessed that I got lucky here. Like everything was like all there, and it was like the perfect catalyst for me getting into tricking.
100%. But the cool thing is that you took advantage of that opportunity, because I think what's more frustrating is hearing that someone is from that area, but they didn't take the chance to like capitalize upon it. You know what I'm saying? And so like I always tell kids, I'm like, yo, like if you live near a resource like that, kids would die to have the opportunity to be surrounded by knowledge and other fellow practitioners and stuff like that. So
yeah, I definitely feel for like all those kids who are learning like they're by themselves, or you see like people who post on Instagram or Facebook, they're like, oh, I'm the only one in my area. It's just like, dude, that's rough.
Totally.
Like I'm spoiled. I've always had training partners. I had like solo sessions, but I'm always training with somebody. I always have 20, 30 people I can hit up if I want to train with them. You know, I'm rarely train alone, you know?
That's crazy, man. Yeah. When I first started my career, because it was also like so long ago, like I'm like way older than you, my parents didn't even have like a quote unquote like kids class. Like they started it because of me, because they're like, damn, we need to have kids classes now, you know? So like I grew up always being alone and not having anyone to train with. And it was like very lucky that like later in my adolescent life, I stumbled upon Valley College, which I don't know if you've seen the old training videos, but that was a gym here in the Valley where you could go on any given night and you have Steve Tirada there, you have Arnold Chan there, you have Lateef Crowder there.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it was crazy. I remember being a little kid like, whoa, this is so dope, you know? But like even still, I would give it all up to have been born where you were. Which is so cool, man.
Yeah, it was crazy because like I remember I went to like my first like Twister session. That's the first time, because like before it was like I always trained on karate floor, and then I was like, oh, my once a week we're going to go spring floor, so that's when we go hard, you know. So I went there and we just like there was at old Twisters there was 2 floors. There's like the main floor and there's like a smaller floor. So like you'd peek in and like you'd see all the big boys, you know, like Alex Hunter, who else, like Patio Anderson, you know, everyone going like really hard, you know, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then you'd go back into the small floor and just like, you know, train your baby tricks until you're worthy to get into the big floor. You know, it was really cool environment where you're like inspired and you also want to like train really hard, but it's also like, there's like, oh, we got to get good before we can go on the big floor, you know? That's
so funny. And just to put it into perspective for people, like what year was it that you actually started going to Twisters?
Let me see. I think my first Loopkicks camp and gathering that I attended, the first night show I went to, I believe was 2012.
Okay. So and how old were you at that point?
2012, I think I was 17.
Okay.
So I started martial arts kind of late, actually. So I started when I was like 14. So
that is kind of late in the grand scheme of
relatively
things.
late.
Yeah.
So and I did martial arts to get, you know, went through all the basics first, and then I got into it like maybe 2 or 3 years into my, you know, my martial arts career, and then my first Loopkicks, I think the first time I was at Twisters was a night show, actually.
Okay.
So I think 2012 was like when they had, like, I think Mike was there, Velu was there. I think, I can't quite remember. I just remember the demo that they did. I think like Kim Do was doing like some kind of like dance demo with the tricking. It was sick. I was like, this is so cool. Like I've seen all these are all people I've seen on YouTube and stuff, and now I get to see them in person. I was like, blew my mind.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, that in the relative scheme of things, it is so funny to think that 14 is like a little later started it. But I mean, now we have kids like, as you know, Shosei, like killing the game at 16, Aiden Kennedy 16, Zen Kajihara, you know, it's like absolutely insane. And I mean, you even have students at your school that are even half the age and even younger. And so it just blows my mind. What was it about tricking though that continued to like keep you to be a part of it? Because I think like you mentioned kind of how you went to the smaller floor, I think at the same time, like being born in that area can also be like a blessing and a curse, because it can also be very intimidating in the sense that like you're around some of the top level guys back in the game. And, it's something that I talked about with Tommy Case on his episode about. He said the best advice he had for a lot of people in tricking is to not compare yourselves to other people, because you get caught up in your head mentally. So how were you able to like overcome that and continue to like keep motivation? Was it just the sense of trying to get to their level?
Yeah, for me, because I started like, I never had like aspirations to be like the best, because I've always had like I had like a lot of influences of this is where tricking was at that level, very high level. You know, you walk into session, you see people already doing dubs. You know, it's just like, so in my mind, I was always just like focused on like self-improvement. My goals was never to be like the best tricker in like even in the world or in the area. I just wanted to tricking was just really fun to me. Tricking was just like the coolest thing. Like when I started, all I wanted to do was like, I just want a good cheat 7, maybe like a jackknife, you know? Like I never thought like I wouldn't do a double. That's too much, you know what I mean? But like now that like I started like growing into your goals are always growing. But for me, I was never like super ambitious about it, but I just loved the community. I just love training. You know, it's for me, it's not always about like the end goal of this is where I want to be. It's just like the day-to-day, the journey of just training with my friends. And I always had friends that I tricked with. So I always had a lot of fun. So I've never had like a big, like, okay, I need to take a break. Like this is not fun for me anymore. I've never had to do that. I've always had fun tricking. So for me, it's never been like super serious. It's always been super like, this is something fun, and like if I'm not gonna have fun, why would I do it? But I've never not wanted to do it.
Yeah, totally.
So I feel that's another thing I feel blessed with, is that I just found it enjoyable, and you know, I just want to keep pursuing it.
Totally. And what's interesting about the age that you started at and really like got into it is it's actually during high school where you probably have the most workload. Whereas I feel like a lot of other kids are lucky to start younger because they don't have as many responsibilities. How many days a week were you training during that time? And did you have to balance school and tricking, or were you one of those kids that just kind of was like more focused on athletics?
I didn't train that often, maybe like 3 or 4 times a week, like nothing crazy. But I think what was helpful is like, especially I know a lot of kids like who start young, in martial arts especially, they get burned out by the time they're in like high school, because like they've been doing it for X amount of years, and they're just like, well, I'm sick of this. But like, because I started like when I was like already like 14, 15, it's like this is all like fresh and new to me. So I never hit that like burnout period where it's just like, oh, I'm tired of doing this. This is all like, this is cool. I want to just keep pushing myself. And like, I think the thing tricking versus martial arts, which really helped me like really push for tricking, is that tricking has like no skill cap. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just like, you know, oh, you can dub. Well, let's try to add another twist. You know what I mean? There's always something more you could be doing, versus like, for me, what I felt with martial arts is, you know, like you're doing the same forms, the same kicks. I can only do like spin hook kick like 100 times. Like, yeah, it can always get better. But then if it's more fun for me to always be pushing like difficulty and not just perfecting like what I already have, you know?
Yeah.
So in that sense, I kind of feel like when I did martial arts, there was kind of like a skill cap. But for tricking, there was no such correlation for me.
100. And it's really interesting you say that, because, dude, it's funny. You got into martial arts at 14. I retired from competition officially at 14, 15.
Wow.
Because I'd been doing it like ever since I was born.
Yeah.
Like my first competition, I was 3 years old.
Wow.
So like by the time I hit 14, I was over a decade in.
Yeah, exactly.
I was burned.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense that you would want to like branch out and try some other stuff.
Yeah, totally. But at the same time, I think like you said, and you explained it very well, is like there's no cap to it. And that was what was so intriguing to me about tricking, was like my rebellion phase from traditional martial arts was getting into a sport that basically was the opposite of traditional. Mm-hmm. Like there was no format to follow. You could like jump out of order. You didn't have to like go in these orders of sequences of learning skills. Yeah. And that was like the most appealing thing to me, along with the side that like you could actually for once, you know, like for lack of a better term, like have your own style and flavor, because there is like a correct way to do things in martial arts. Whereas in tricking, in my personal opinion, you could do the same move a million different ways.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's what I do like about tricking. It's just that it's limitless, and that you can do whatever you want. And I was blessed because with the martial arts school that I went to, they encouraged me to train tricking too, right? Because like it's good for like demos and like open forums and stuff like that. So I had a very good blend where their whole like the West Coast philosophy is more about like, you know, it's not just sticking very strict to it's about pulling from different styles and stuff. So I think that really influenced my tricking too, where I just like, yeah, let's just try to do everything, you know? So I really aim to be like well balanced, not just focus on one thing or the other.
Okay. And then just as far as like, you know, obviously now you are the owner of the Loopkicks gym and you started just by going to a camp and a night show back in the day. How did you like work your way up the ranks and what was your involvement with Loopkicks as a team over the years?
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to answer, but because Loopkicks hasn't really had like a strict roster of like, okay, you're on the team, you're not on the team. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of friends who like to hang out, you know? So I think around like 2015, 16 is when I started like hanging out with the main Loopkicks guys more often. I think they're the group that eventually became like BAT, you know?
Yes.
So that generation's when I started to hang out with them more. And then 2017, I hosted Loopkicks Camp and Gathering with Kang.
Okay.
So we did that one together, and then after 2018 and 19 is the ones that I did where I spearheaded those ones by myself. I had like team helping me out, of course, but that was like me mostly pushing for that. So 2018, 2019 were the ones that I did, but basically it's just I started just, you know, you just train with the guys, you become friends with them, and then, you know, it's more like, it's not like anyone's just like a salary job or anything. It's just like, if you want to be involved, get involved. Like that's one thing that we've always, you know, focused on is like, we want everyone to help out as much as you can. If you want to help out, then there's things for you to do. You know what I mean? So, around like 2018 is when we pivoted away from, we're just doing one big event at the end of the year, in the summer, I mean. And then now we're starting to branch out. Okay, we've always had like little events throughout the year, like Valentine's Day or Halloween or whatever. But now we started focusing on running classes we had them at Twisters, and we had them at BAM, which is his parkour gym. And then eventually at the place we're at now, which is, it was originally a cheer gym.
Yes.
And then we are...
is it CP or CS?
It was CP, Cheer Perfection. And then last year, it got bought by it became a different gym, like a sports gym, it's called Evo Sports.
Okay.
So basically, we used to just lease, we used to rent the floor. So we just like pay per hour for the spring floor when it was a cheer gym. But then once we went under new ownership, we started subleasing the entire area. So we have access to it 24/7. So that's what the Loopkicks gym is. It's a portion of a bigger facility.
Yeah, that's super cool. Because I remember like you guys moved into the CP gym back in like 2017. And I remember you just had like banners hung up every so often here and there. Or like during it was just the white walls. But then all of a sudden in 2019, I believe it was, I was like, oh, they got a graffiti on the wall? I was like, that's a little more permanent. Like what's going on, you know?
Yeah, so as of... June, like literally the month right before the gathering of 2019 is when we got all the sublease figured out. So we can do whatever we want, like make any changes we want. So that is our home for the next foreseeable future, like 4-ish years. Okay. So so that's where we're just running classes and event, or we were until closed down, but
yeah, totally. And it's like a really great thing that I tell a lot of kids to do, because I get a lot of messages from kids asking me like, how did I start my first gym? How did I do this? And honestly, I had a very like irregular path and did just stuff that I wouldn't recommend younger kids to do financially and take the responsibility of. So I always suggest, like, if you can, to try to like find a place that will allow you to either rent the floor first, like you guys did, and then once you've proven the model and gotten to a point where you know you're sustainable, if you can't take on your own building, like to try to find a sublease. And I think Neo Motion Academy is another great example. They currently sublease space within a ATA Taekwondo school. And so like it's a model that like continues to work. So if any of the kids out there are very interested in finding a way to progress financially and through the ranks, I think rent a floor at first, prove that you have a student base and you can be profitable, and then eventually like move into subleasing like you guys have. But what was that like to make the decision to go from renting a floor to actually committing to a sublease? Like, was it a huge financial burden on you?
No, actually, because me personally, I'm very like measured when it comes to like risk taking. So because it just made sense financially. Like we were able to like, you know, make money by just renting the floor. And I was like, okay, we have X amount of students, so we can pay this the rent, there's X dollars a month. So once it made sense financially, then I just pulled the trigger. Like, okay, we can do this, you know? Okay. We just have to, you know, push a little hard with the marketing, get more students in, and once it made sense, it made sense. So I'm really fortunate because, like, it's not like I started from the ground up. I kind of fell into a like the biggest, like, tricking organization already, you know? So, like, I could take on the mantle of, and I had the brand name, all the, like, the social media accounts. I just took over it, you know what I mean? So using that, I could grow it from what it was before, and then just start adding it and, like, snowballing it into becoming something more permanent instead of, like, hopping from, like, gym to gym, that kind of thing.
Okay. And at the current time right now, what is the leadership? I know there's never, like you said, there's never been a roster of the team, but what is the current state of Loopkicks right now? And, like, as far as, like, an organizational standpoint, are you the only one that technically has, like, ownership of the gym and stuff like that?
Yeah. So technically I am, like, the sole owner of the gym. And right now, like, before, Loopkicks used to be like, sometimes it's a demo team, sometimes we're a coaching team. As of right now, our main focus has been the gym and running programs because that's just what makes the most money. Yeah. And that's how, in my mind, we can go into this later. That's how I feel like that's the most impactful way to grow tricking is through having a consistent way that kids and adults can start training. But yeah, right now it's me. I own the gym, and I have my team is mostly people who are my coaching staff and, like, people who help out with, like, social media and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's super cool, and it makes a lot of sense. It's just really cool. Like I said, the more and more, like, tricking gyms that pop up over the world, it just makes me, like, so happy inside to see that, like, people can prove the fact that, like, you can actually make a business and be sustainable off of it. And at the same time, like you just alluded to, it's, like, the best way to continue to spread our sport in a very, like, nurturing and, like, impactful way. Yeah. I think one of the things I've been most impressed with is not only seeing you guys, like, take over gym space, but more so, like, seeing the new generations you guys are breeding. And, like, one of the people I love watching is little Marcus.
Yeah.
How old is he at this point?
He is, I think he's 9 now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been crazy. Like, back when, and there's been him and, like, I have a group of, like, my higher level students, and they're the ones that I trained throughout the summer when we could only run summer camp. So they got really good real fast.
Totally.
So, like, Marcus recently got aerial pop dub, cart wrap dub, TDR double cork. He can cart trip on air track.
Yeah.
He's trying, like, cart wrap trip right now. So, like, yeah, I really like having a gym where I can have a place where I can, like, train all this next generation. Because I feel with tricking, you'll see in a lot of different communities, you'll have a really strong generation, but because they're all just focused on getting good, they're not building a foundation for the next gen. It kind of dies off, and then there's, like, little, like, spikes and stuff like that. So my focus right now is just having a really strong baseline where we can have, you know, we're always having new students, and you know, once those students get good, they'll start coaching the next gen, kind of like how, like, martial arts schools are, totally. You know, and that's how you build a really strong community, not just with trickers who start from like backyards, which is great. Like that's it's a good mix of, like, I have people who come to open gym, and I have my students, and they train together, and we have, like, this cross, like, training kind of thing. It's great. So having that facility really allows the Bay Area tricking community to really foster and really grow, and that way I think it's going to be, like, it's going to self-sustain itself.
Yeah, 100.
And that's the focus. I mean, that's, like, what Japan's doing. That's why Japan seems like it came out of nowhere, because, like, like, they have like, Tundra was, like, founded, like, what, 3 to 5 years ago?
Not too long ago.
Right, not that long ago, but they're starting to see their payoffs now, right? And so it's all about, like, it's like an investment, right? You invest in the community, and, like, you know, you have and once you have a strong baseline, and all these trickers are going to come out of seemingly nowhere, but they've just been training in a gym, and that's when they start popping off.
Yeah, 100%. Tundra's so successful that they've opened up a second location now, and it's like they literally did that because they had too many students, and I'm like, that is a good problem to have, especially with a sport very specific like tricking, not martial arts. And I think the funniest thing about Marcus is that he's so young and little still that I always see his video clips, and he's in these adult-sized t-shirts that don't fit him, half of which are Jam shirts, and I'm always like, damn, we need to just make some Marcus-sized t-shirts, yo.
Yeah, I always, like, never order enough kid sizes. They're all, like, I give him, like, an extra small adult, and still, like, all the way till his knees. It's like,
I'm like, this is probably not safe to trick him, but he's still pulling it off somehow, dude. Yeah. It blows my mind. No, that's super cool. And now along the lines of, like, you guys running the classes and stuff like that, obviously you can't be successful without having a good foundational structure and way to teach people. Because if you're just freestyling it, it's never going to work. Right. So the curriculum that you guys are teaching has it been formulated by you personally, or what is the curriculum and format you teach?
have like it's it's like loose, but it's written down. We have basically these big like posters of all the different. We have like I do like a band level, which is very similar to like martial arts belt levels. Yeah. So I basically wrote that and like kind of formulated just based off like how a lot of people. I mean, before I started the Loopkicks classes, I was like coaching. I coached tricking at like my martial arts school. I taught at like a parkour gym. So I've been coaching for a while before I took over like the Loopkicks classes. And then even then, like you see like all your friends' progressions and my own personal progression. So I just kind of broke down, okay, in level 1, you got to do these tricks. Level 2, it's very similar to like the martial arts system, but we kind of changed it a little bit. This is actually based off like the parkour gym that I was working at is a lot less formal, because you can't say like, okay, in 3 months you're going to test for your next band. Like either you can backflip or you can't, you know, there's like every kid's going to be different. So we do a lot less formal, where it's like, okay, if you can do all the tricks, you know, after class, just pull a coach over on the side during open gym and say, hey, can I test for the next one? And we just like we make it very like, it's focused on like self-motivation and like whatever you guys want to do. If you want to focus on getting the next band, you can. If not, you just want to trick, that's fine. So we have that structure for kids who really like that, or even adults who really like it, but it's not something that we really push towards all the time. But yeah, we're just kind of experimenting with different things.
And at a foundational basis, do you guys still implement a lot of traditional kicking techniques or kicking movements, or have you just progressed to mainly focusing on more, you know, off-axis variations within tricking?
Yeah, so our focus is on doing everything. Like I'm kind of a nerd about that kind of thing. It's just like I like to see all tricking. Like how do we categorize it? What's the best way to see it? So I treat it. So even though I came from a martial arts background, I did like kicking for like 3-4 years before I even started flipping, right? I try to treat them like they're all the same. So like a tornado kick has like no bearing on if you can backflip or not. So we teach them as if they're all equal. So that's the way a lot of our students will be like, you know, they'll be as good at kicking as they are at flipping. They're kind of at a similar level. So like you can think of like the full matrix kind of thing, where it's a cork is equivalent to a full, which is equivalent to like a cheat 9 kind of thing. So you kind of treat it all like that, and you're all working them all together. Like I said, it's all about like building that foundation. And like after they've been training with us for like 3-6 months, like a year, all their tricks are good all of a sudden, you know, because they're building everything together. We're not focusing on, okay, you have to do, you know, your round kicks for a year before we start working on the flips. Like it doesn't make sense, because there's tricking is so vast and so varied that it doesn't make sense to treat it as a linear progression. So I think of it as just building a really strong base in all the different types of tricks. And as they get a strong like foundation of this, then they can start focusing, oh, I really like doing like fulls or corks. So then they start doing more of that, you know what I mean? But I really focus on having like a balanced tricking education before they can start branching out and starting developing their own style.
Okay. And obviously, like we've talked about, Loopkicks has existed for so many generations and decades and stuff like that. Do you find the majority of your students are there because of the Loopkicks name, or are they kids that are finding just tricking in general from other sports? Like what is your main student base? Like here in LA, we're kind of spoiled. The majority of people that take our tricking classes are trying to get into the entertainment industry. So they see it as a way to like add to their repertoire of having some cool, flashy moves. And then obviously we do have some kids that, you know what tricking is because we live in such a large city, you know?
Yeah. I would say it's a mix. Like when we first started like 2 years ago at the gym, most of them were like martial arts kids or people who like did parkour. But then lately I've been getting a lot of students who just like, I was like, how do you find us? Oh, we were trying to find a place that teaches tricking. So we've been getting a lot more. I'm surprised. I'm like, how do you guys know about tricking? Like, so I think it's really cool that it seems like a very tangible growth thing to me, where people just want to start tricking. So, and that's really great for me, because when I was originally starting like teaching the class, I'm like, okay, how do we market this? Are we gonna, focus on like the martial arts? Are we gonna make it like, are we gonna make it more like gymnastics? Like how do we brand this? But it's like, but we just focus like we're just gonna be true to ourselves and just, okay, we're teaching tricking. We're not doing like Ninja Warrior stuff. We're not doing like parkour. You know what I mean? Yeah. We just call it tricking, and and it helps us like, so when we teach our classes, we don't have to like, okay, we don't have to like branch off and do other stuff. I just teach tricking, you know what I mean? Yeah. So which is really good, because I feel like we're blessed. A lot of places can't afford to do that just because people don't know about tricking, you know what I mean? So I think it's really cool that, especially in the Bay Area, that tricking started to be like a thing that people start to know about. So
yeah.
it's great.
It's definitely cool. It's like growing. It used to be like a really, really underground subculture, but it's definitely like getting its own legs now.
Yeah.
It's not on the same platform and size as far as like widespread notoriety as parkour is, in my personal opinion. But it is starting to get like its own like grassroots following where people kind of know what it is. And I think the more that we like integrate ourselves into things, like I think one of the coolest things is like the way that like Stance Elements breakdancing platform has really been highlighting tricking. I saw them this morning even put out a post about Aiden Kennedy. And I think the more and more that like we're able to draw upon different like movement circles, we'll continue to grow, hopefully bigger and bigger from here on out. And so I think one of the other things that's cool is like, besides obviously having the tricking classes where people come and can sign up and pay for classes, is you're also giving away a lot of other free knowledge. And I know you run another additional Instagram account in addition to the Loopkicks account. I don't want to say it wrong, and I'll put it on the screen right now, but can you just let people know about that account so that maybe some people that aren't aware of it can go follow it and check out
so
the
that's
moves?
the at Learn Tricking account. Actually, that was a project that I started in quarantine. Basically, I was like, I have all this time, might as well start making content. So the idea originally was that, so what we already have on Loopkicks website is we have the Loopkicks Trictionary.
Yes.
So that was born like even before I was fully involved with Loopkicks. I was just like, what, this like I like Club 540 is cool and all, but what if we made it like more include more stuff, broke it down by like category a little bit more, and just made it more of a platform where you can start learning if you want to, because you start tricking, like there's so many moves. I don't know how this move is related to this move or anything like that. So by breaking it down and making it more digestible, that's the focus of the Trictionary that we built out. So the Learn Tricking was kind of like that, the Trictionary, but on Instagram, because I was like, okay, how do we get more eyes on this kind of thing? And now it was originally just, okay, I'm just going to post like a clip of someone do a single trick and then just give it the name so people can start building their vocabulary of tricks. But then I just started like, let's make these little mini tutorials or drills or like breakdowns. And I've been having a lot of fun making that. And I feel like it's super helpful. I get all these like helpful like comments and messages saying that it really helps them. So I'm going to try to continue that as much as possible, because coaching is really fun for me. So like right now I've been focusing on not just like getting good at tricking, but coaching, it's definitely a skill on its own.
100%.
And it's like, there's not a lot of correlation between being a really good tricker and being a good coach. You just there's two separate skills, So I've been really focusing on just growing that aspect and that skill. And it's really fun for me too. And I just kind of, and I have a bunch of students so I can experiment. I'll say, let's try this drill. Okay, that didn't work. Oh, that's fine. I'll just preface it. Hey, this is a drill I just came up with. Well, let's try it. If it doesn't work, But it like the way I train now or the way I coach now compared to how I learned tricking, completely different. Like the majority of my students there in 3 months, they're as good as I was in like a year or two.
Totally different.
It's like, I wish I had me when I was growing up, man. It's like, it's not fair.
100. It's like we all have the cheat codes and stuff like that now. It's like kids can progress so quickly where I'm like, dude, there's some kids even within our program that we teach at JAM that can do some combinations and some moves that I just skipped when I was learning. And I'm like, damn. It's crazy that you can do this move and you only been tricking for a year.
Yeah.
Like I just skipped that move because it just wasn't part of the fundamental curriculum that I was learning on my own at open gyms, and it's super wild. Do you see any like, it's kind of like a tough question to answer, but like, I guess what I'm asking is like, you obviously charge to have classes in person, but then on Learn Tricking, you're just kind of giving it away from free. Do you think you gain any followers or students as a result of the other site?
Maybe. It's still kind of new, where I only started going really hard with the Learn Tricking page like within the last few months, so it's too early for that. But the way I see it, like videos and tutorials can't replace in-person coaching or even like online coaching where you're giving direct feedback. And that's never going to change. So like I love like all the tutorial sites like YouTube or KTL or any of all those kind of resources. But I definitely don't think like that is a substitute for coaching. Like I honestly do believe that like coaching is the next level of getting the next level of tricking athletes. Like, of course, there are always going to be amazing trickers who like come like teaching themselves, and that's what I love about tricking is that you are self-taught. It's all about what you want to do. But I think with all these resources coming out and as more programs start popping up around the world, that's how trickers are going to get really good, and that's going to be the next level in the skill.
Yeah. In your own personal opinion, and this is kind of a question that I don't know if you've even thought about before, but like personally speaking, when I'm teaching people stunt and fight choreography, it does help sometimes for them to have a martial arts basis, but sometimes I actually prefer them not to be because they have a lot of habits that I have to break. So I just wanted to know from someone that's so focused on coaching at this point, do you find a correlation between people that learn quicker having a martial arts background or being like a blank slate where tricking is like their first acrobatic sport?
It depends. I've seen it both ways. Everyone would think that like, oh, you've done martial arts for 5 years, like you're probably really good. But sometimes what I've seen is that like, you know, if you do traditional martial arts, you don't start doing like spin hook kick until 3 years in. Totally. And you put that trick on a pedestal, you're like, oh, spin hook kick is hard. I'm like, that's what we teach day one, dude. You know what I mean? So sometimes in their, we'll have like in their minds, they're like, even if they're good at martial arts, they don't have, it's just a different, I wouldn't say it's a physical thing, it's more like a mindset thing where that you're used to having all these like blocks and barriers to in learning martial arts versus in tricking is like everything is open to you. You know what I mean? So sometimes I'll see that, but of course, a lot of my students who are really good are doing martial arts because they already have that really good foundation. For me, it's less about like your previous experience, more about the mindset of them coming into the sport. But I do see a lot of good kids who like come from like either they do some kind of other sport, or they do martial arts. So I don't prefer one or the other, but I do I'm starting to see like who's good and who's like naturally gifted, like that kind of thing, just by watching where they come from. And I don't have like a number one answer yet. I'm still like kind of figuring it out, like kind of playing around with it, you know? Hell yeah. But like, yeah, I think for me, the most important thing is that mindset, you know? Yes. And what's good I love about having a tricking gym is if they're already seeking out tricking, they kind of self-vet themselves. They're already kids who want to get really good. Like versus like when I taught martial arts, you know, it's like you have a class of 10, you'll have like 2 good kids, like 6 mediocre kids, and like 2 who are like don't really want to be there. In tricking class, like 95% of them want to be there to get good. So it makes my job so much easier, so much fun. It doesn't feel like I'm working. I'm just there like having fun training with them. You know, I'm sessioning with them and while giving tips and stuff. So like this is really fulfilling for me because it doesn't feel like, all right, I gotta clock in and like, all right, we gotta sit with the kids and like get them like sometimes with the younger kids is like that, but for the most part, they all want to be there to trick because it's so niche. That's what I love about tricking.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of times in traditional martial arts, the classes that we end up teaching, mostly kids are there just because it's an after-school activity or it's a way for the parents to have 2 hours free. Yeah, and so like you said, like even within JAM in general, like we haven't really done a lot of public advertising. We just exist off our Instagram. And as a result of it, it's like the people that do take the time to seek us out and drive to our classes, they really want to be there. They really are passionate about training and getting better. And it's less of a headache, you know, it's way less of a headache. And that's also why, like, you know, and it's something that I've talked about on the JAMCast a few different times. It's like, we don't focus as much on kids programs, even though they monetarily are probably the biggest money maker because you can get a kid hooked for years. I've actually chosen to eliminate a lot of kids programs just because simply is like, I want to be like what you're saying. I want people that are there seeking out the knowledge and also are also at like a standpoint where they can like understand and comprehend things and like take it with them, because the one thing about tricking is that like you can go to a class and learn a lot of skills, but if you really want to get better, you have to train on your own outside of class. And like that's something that fortunately for us, I'm sure you see a lot of the kids that do come and a lot of the adults that do come tricking, they don't just come for the class setting. You know, they put in some extra hours at open gyms or at home and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of like the way we structure like memberships and everything is all based off of class and open gym. Like they come together. So like you pay for classes that comes with open gyms because we want to promote like that kind of training because that's a core like feature of tricking. That's how you get good at tricking is doing it and playing around on your own. So yeah, definitely like you know which kids really want it by the ones who like stick around after class and do the whole 2 hours of open gym versus the kids who just show up and like they gotta go, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing that is great about tricking. It's just like it's all about like self, like teaching yourself and like you learn so many lessons about, you know, about like life lessons just like through just tricking. Like the reason why I started doing like more business focused things with Loopkicks is because I gained that confidence through tricking of like teaching myself. Like I already know, like, you know, if I can teach myself to do a double cork. I can teach myself about like online marketing, or like, it's like, it's all the same thing, it's just different aspects, but it's all the same umbrella,
They're all learned skills. And that's the one thing. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, you're lucky you're good at this, or you're lucky you're good at this. And I'm like, no, man, if you take the time, you can learn anything, whether it's an instrument, whether it's tricking, whether it's learning how to run a business. You just got to like put in the time and effort. Obviously there's no shortcuts around that. You know, some people can be naturally inclined, or, quote unquote, like born with a natural gift and stuff. But I feel like there's a lot of guys that just work their butts off. Yeah.
I felt like I was one of those. I wasn't that naturally gifted because I started martial arts kind of late. Because I was very kick heavy. I was like scared. I didn't do like a backflip until like 2 or 3 years into like like starting to like do martial arts and tricking. So like it took me a while, you know what I mean? Versus like now, backflip is like one of the first moves I'll teach him, because like now, you want to get over that fear and, learn all the mechanics and stuff like that. But yeah, like as long as you put the time in and then you're approaching it like you're training smart, like you can grow like in tricking, or like whatever sport you choose, or not even just sports, whatever activity you choose. It's just put the hours in, and you just got to want it.
Totally. And at this point, like, it's kind of a thing that happens naturally for some people. So that's why I'm curious to get your answer, because I do see a lot of footage of you still like training and like upping your own personal level. Because for a lot of times, there's sometimes when people make the decision to become a coach and a teacher, that you fall off on your own personal skills because you're less dedicated to personal growth and more so on the growth of your students. How much are you tricking per week now? And are you still focused on trying to obtain some certain individual goals?
Yeah. For me, I just like to I'm immersed in the gym. So like when I still train on my own, like 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely have some tricking goals. I just want to get good, because as my kids get better, I gotta be able to keep. I can't fall behind.
They can't roast you in a class battle.
Exactly, dude. I'm gonna look bad. So like I gotta. And the more for me, if I don't get good, if I can't do certain tricks, I can't coach that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like with tricking, even if they are really good and they can self-teach, there's still a lot of value that I can give to them as a coach, even though they might be a higher level than me. Like you see, like Olympic level gymnastics athletes, and they still have coaches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm trying to get my skill level up so I can not just to hang, but it's still fun for me. So I'm still pushing. I'm still like training like new, different techniques. So like I started doing more air track training, more trampoline training. Because before, like I said, I came from martial arts, so I was always just let's just do it on the floor. Like, I'm not comfortable with mats. I'm not comfortable with the trampoline.
I hate trampoline.
Yeah, like I had to like force myself to do trampoline, because like I had a couple my friends who are really good on trampoline, and it's just like, man, they're getting so good at I'm just wasting my time by not training on trampoline, so I just gotta bite the bullet and like force myself to do it. And then you have like all these athletes like Tiki. Like Tiki's really good on tramp. He's crazy on trampoline. So it's like and the more comfortable I am on a different apparatus, the more options I can give my students as well. Because otherwise, I feel like I'm faking if I can't actually do the skills, and I'm like, oh, you do the triple full on trampoline, but I'm like, I don't know how to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to be as well rounded and high level as I can, for my own personal reasons as well as for coaching.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned, the coolest thing about it is that you're able to combine not only like work but also passion, and like you're in the gym so many hours. I think one of the coolest things that I've been watching recently is watching like the revival of Velu, because Velu has his own tricking gym now.
Yeah.
This dude is in there all the time. He just recently put out a clip of him doing Cali roll.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the hell? This is so cool to see, like, quote unquote, like an old school or like, previous generation guy still in the gym, still pushing hard, but it's because he has the opportunity to be in the gym.
Yeah, he's a big inspiration for me, because I'm 25 now, so I'm like starting to look at like the older guys who are still tricking. There's a lot of them now. Like if you had asked me like 5-7 years ago, like, oh, can trickers who are like over the age of 27 still trick? And I'm like, I don't know about that. But now you have so many, because we've learned how to take care of our bodies. We've changed like how our training techniques and, all that kind of stuff. So now I'm like, okay. So now over the past year, I've been like upping my nutrition game, my conditioning game, my stretching game. It's just like, these are all things I have to do, otherwise I can't trick, And if I want to be a tricking coach and own a tricking gym, I better be doing all these things. So it's important to me. Like tricking's like not just a job, it's like my lifestyle,
Yeah, totally. And for kids out there that are wondering about like whether or not, I know that's one of the biggest questions that a lot of kids get to when they start to get out of high school is figuring out like what they want to do as far as a career is concerned. And it's really difficult for a lot of them to swallow the fact that they've put in so many hours training that they can't translate that to actually like having sustainable income. Are you personally living fully off of the gym at this point, or do you still like supplement?
So as of right now, that's my full-time job basically. But I was in a very fortunate position where I could work. I had an IT job that I did, and that helped a lot with because I could do that in the daytime, and I could still do my do the gym like afterwards. So I could do both things, and I still lived at home. So like I was in a very fortunate position where I could really push the Loopkicks gym and all the programs while still kind of relaxing and not. I can still do my other job and do two things at once. So I just grinded really hard and just put many hours into it because I loved it. And the thing about like coaching and all the handling all the business side is it doesn't feel like work to me because it's all just tricking related. So I was really fortunate in that aspect that I had like a safety net. And I could work on it while doing other stuff as well. But as of right now, it is my main focus.
That's dope. That's super cool to hear. I think like the more and more I hear that, it's super inspiring because a lot of people for the longest time like looked at me as like the owner of JAM. But what I used to always tell them is that like, to me, JAM is just kind of like my passion project on the side. Like it generates revenue, but my main career is obviously doing stunts for film and television and stuff like that. So like, I honestly give a lot of praise and props to guys like yourself, to Matt Milhone and the guys at Neo Motion Academy, Velu with his gym right now. Like I think the more and more that we're able to see sustainable models from like fellow trickers, the more and more people will take a chance on it. And hopefully like people will gain a lot from just our conversation about ways that you can continue to do so. Because I think it is something that will continue to help like grow the sport. And also like, you know, like I said, I think it's a cool reward for people because that's one thing that's so tough is that like, I think for so many sports, whether it be like gymnastics, for example, or even, you know, martial arts back in the day, the only thing you could really do for a long time is like, you know, maybe go to the Olympics in gymnastics and then it's like, what do? You can like maybe become a coach, but like to see that people are actually opening up like their own facilities and gyms and stuff like that gives a lot of hope and inspiration to like future generations.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I feel like there's obviously, we're such a, not volatile, but we're in the stage of like growth for tricking, I think, where you could do whatever you want. Like over the past 5 years, so many tricking businesses have popped up, like these gyms, like any online platforms, and like we've seen like the growth of like Instagram influencers who are trickers, that kind of thing. So like we're in this like really ripe period where you can literally do whatever you want. You just gotta try stuff out, you know, and you just gotta be willing to like grind for a while. Just because like the thing is, you don't know what's gonna stick too.
Totally.
So you just gotta try stuff, you know. And for me, my focus again is like tricking programs, because honestly, like the way I see tricking growing, one of the ways is through these programs, right? I don't see us getting to the Olympics anytime soon. Like we can't even figure out the battle system on our own. Like what makes you think we're ready for the Olympics? You know, are we doing timed? Are we doing rounds? Like you know, there's still controversial like judging calls. So it's just like don't wait for the Olympics. You got to like create these things on your own. And for me, I think the easiest way is to start like coaching and like, you know, like you said, like you can teach classes at some place and then start getting your own, like what you were saying, start getting your own renting space and then start building a community. You don't even have to be teaching classes, but the more eyes and the more people you get involved in your local tricking community, I think the more it will grow. And I think that's one of the strengths of tricking is it's always like community based.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I'm always focusing on growing that local scene.
Okay. No, that's super cool. That's super cool. And now along the lines of this, I know that we can't talk about it too much because we don't want to give it away and things like that, but I know you also have something else in the works very much related to tricking. Can you just like give maybe a teaser about what that is so that we get people interested on what's to come in the future? Yeah.
So currently we're working on a Loopkicks app and basically has a couple functionalities. We're going to focus. I'm porting over the Trictionary to be like mobile focused. So like, you know, whenever you're at the gym, you're like, oh, I want to see like that really good tricker. How do they do like, I don't know, a double cork or whatever. Then you can like pull it up really fast because otherwise you're hunting through their Instagram. You're like, oh, let's find a YouTube video. Oh, these are all people that I don't even know their names. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm trying to find a centralized place where you can find on your phone, really focused on that. We're building a combo generator, which I built out the program for like how basically how the transitions and landings and stances and all that work. So if you land an aerial, what transitions into what tricks can you do. It just randomly generates combos. It's going to have a trick list where you can kind of track your progress. So it's like, okay, these are the tricks that I can do, and then your combo generator will pull from the tricks that you can already have in your list, or you can have like, these are the tricks I'm working on, my work in progress tricks.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we have. We're building like an open gym locator kind of thing where you can like put in like, these are all the gyms in the area and like that kind of thing. I'm porting over, like, we have an events page on the Loopkicks site where it just shows all the tricking events that are upcoming. So that way we always want to be focused not just on Loopkicks, but growing tricking as a whole. So the more people we get in these events, the better. So we have like, it's just basically a listing of all the tricking events. And we have some other, we're working on like subscription platforms and all that. But as of right now, we're still working on that. And we're aiming for a February release.
Okay, cool. And that's super cool. And I think one of the most difficult things about the time they're living right now is that there's so much like insecurity in regards to like what's going to happen as far as being able to open the gyms and stuff. So I think an app will be great because people still be able to use that even during COVID times and things like that. So.
Yeah, definitely focusing on just like diversifying the business. So we're just like I said, that's why I've been doing online classes. We're working on the app. Lately I've been like pushing more into like apparel, that kind of stuff, like designs and all that stuff behind the scenes. So I just want to be able to sustain myself even if the gym is like closed, you know what I mean? So, and I think that's something that Loopkicks has always done in the past. Loopkicks has always done a little bit of everything. We've done events, we've done classes, we've done like demos and tours. So we've been all over the place. So I'm really trying to capture that spirit of being everything for tricking as much as possible.
Okay. No, that's super cool. And now personally, like what advice would you give to, I mean, we kind of touched on as far as like renting space and subleasing and stuff like that, but what advice would you have out there for some of these younger kids that are trying to make tricking and their passion something that they can do sustainably and live off of?
Yeah. Depending where you guys are at, I would say number one thing is like, first of all, get good. Like, you know, you have to have that skill, right? A lot of these people want to be like, I want to be Instagram famous. Well, like, well, do you have the skill to back it up? So like, don't be rushing into things. Like, take your time to get good. Like, no one's gonna trust you if you don't have the skills for it, you know? So that's number one thing, is just work on getting your own skills. And then I think if you're lucky enough to have like a gymnastics gym or a parkour gym or anything near you, you can start trying to run a program there. You have to be able to talk to like the management, see if you can, like, maybe you have to teach like one of the tumbling classes or something just to get started to like build that relationship. And then eventually you want to start having like your own tricking class, and coaching is its own skill too. So don't just assume that like, oh, I have the money, I can start my own tricking program. Like, you have to practice and get good at coaching too. You need to produce those results. So it's all just like making a plan and saying, okay, I want to be, say your goal is to have a tricking program. You need to, if that's your goal, you need to think, okay, how am I going to get there? Make all these little in-between plans and all these in-between goals. That way you can achieve that last step, basically.
100. And now we've talked about how tricking has no limits and no caps on it and things like that. And also, you know, over the course of this discussion, we've talked about kind of like your opinion of tricking. But in an ideal world, where would you like to see tricking in the next few years from now?
Man, it's a big
tough
question.
one.
That's a tough one. Because the thing about tricking is, I think, in some ways, it's always going to be niche and underground. It's never going to be like a huge sport just because of how difficult and what it looks like. Even my mom is like, it all looks the same to me. They're all just doing like flips and twists and stuff. And like, so I don't think it's ever going to hit like mainstream appeal, but I think we can at least hit like where like b-boying is at, or where parkour is at, where it's like, it's big in its own right. It's its own kind of thing. So I think, within the next few years, what I really want to see is just more tricking businesses popping up. Like, we basically want to build an ecosystem where we can have, you know, all these classes and programs, and maybe like we'll have, you know, we're going to have more like people on social media to push tricking. So I think tricking is like growing kind of outwards, and the more mainstream people give it like attention, the more people are going to be aware of it. I think the biggest thing is just awareness of what tricking is. And I think like tricking is always going to be, the community is always going to be the same, you know, no matter how big tricking gets. Like, it's always, at the end of the day, it's just training hard with your friends and having fun with your friends. Like, no matter how big tricking gets, I know people get scared. Oh, if tricking gets too big, it's going to be different. It's going to change. Like, it might change a little bit, but like, that's why the local scene is always important, because that's never going to change. You know, you're always going to be excited to find, oh, you trick too? Because that's the reason why trickers get along with each other is like, it's a rare thing, you know. If I see someone tricking at the park, it's like, that guy tricks too? Like, that's so rare, you know what I mean? Yes. Versus like you go to like a basketball court, and like, oh yeah, of course these people play basketball. Like, I'm not going to be friends with these guys just because they also play basketball. You know what I mean? So I think like the grassroots and niche thing aspect of tricking is a strength in its own. So like even as it grows mainstream, I think that's ever going to change.
Yeah, totally. I think for a long time there was like a huge sentiment against tricking almost growing from a lot of people. They wanted to keep it this like underground bubble that was like their own little thing, and they wanted to keep it a secret, and they were very much against commercialization and against companies that would come in and try to do these things. You know, companies like Adrenaline Worldwide have faced a lot of backlash from people within the community, whereas like me personally, like you know, despite any personal opinions I may have, I'm just a huge supporter of anyone that's trying to just grow this global platform that we have, because like you said, I think the more that people are aware of it, the more it will benefit not only the community, but it will benefit like individuals like yourself and myself that run tricking gyms, and also like lend itself to giving more kids the opportunity to translate all the time and hours spent into tricking into some viable income.
Exactly. Yeah. The more people that like know about tricking, the higher chance you'll have more shoseis. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like if people start saying, oh, this is really cool, then you'll have people who start tricking, and that's how you push the level. It's all like helping, like, you'll see not only the skill level grow, but you'll see like businesses grow, and people start to make their own their life around tricking. So like, it's, in my opinion, it's all good as long as, you know, we don't want to lose anything in the process. But I think as long as it's based off of individual trickers like growing in their own local scene or like just representing themselves, I think we're going to be fine. It's not like we're getting bought out by a company or anything. As long as it's focused on us growing individually, we're going to all grow together. That's how I see it.
Totally. And now this is probably a tough question to ask because obviously with all the uncertainty of COVID and stuff like this, but I know you guys previously had planned on running Loopkicks camp during the summer before COVID shut down. Are the camps something that are going to continue to be a long-term thing?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we're allowed to, we're going to throw like the camp and gathering again. Like that's something that, like, this is the first, 2020 is the first one in, I don't know how many years, but I think this was our 19 was our 17th or 17th one or something like that. I think it was like one of those. So like, this is the first time in a long time that we haven't run a gathering. So, but yeah, as soon as we can, we're going to do it. So if it's in the spring, we'll throw a spring one. I don't care. Like, I'm not waiting for summer. I want gatherings to be back.
Yeah, 100%. We took a long time on throwing gatherings. We took like a 5-year hiatus from it, and we were fortunate to throw one at the end of last year before COVID hit. And even I'm missing them so much so that we may throw another one eventually. Nice. So yeah, it'd be cool to just like be in the same room as a bunch of other like-minded individuals and get the community back together for these brief moments in time. So yeah, looking forward to it, man. Hell yeah.
Too.
So, with that being said, man, this is a question that I always ask everyone before we get out of here, which is, where do you see yourself personally 5 years from now? And then what about 10 years from now?
That's a hard one because, like, 5 years ago, I wasn't even running Loopkicks. So, but I think for me in the next 5 years, I'm just focusing on, I'm just focused on growth and sustainability. So I want to be able to grow the gym. And so right now, like I said, we're subleasing a space. Maybe at the end of 5 years, we can get our own standalone facility. That would be great, where we can have more flexibility with classes and the gathering and stuff like that. I just want to focus on growing Loopkicks as a brand, not only just locally with physical classes, but like I said, like apparel, app, whatever online. There's a bunch of different ways you can go. I'm just focusing on expanding our reach and just getting more people into tricking. So my personal focus is just on, I'm all in with like Loopkicks basically. That's my goal right now.
Dope, man.
Yeah. 10 years, I don't know. I can't answer. That's too far along, man. Like, I'll be 35. I don't know. Yeah, that's too long. I don't even know what I'm eating for like lunch tomorrow. So,
well, I know for dinner you'll probably have turkey, right?
Yeah, probably. You're right.
Thanksgiving. That was an easy one.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. I appreciate it. More than anything, like I said, I appreciate you not only making the drive out here, because I know it wasn't a short drive to do this, but also like taking time out of your Thanksgiving vacation to make this. But more than anything, like I really appreciate all that you're doing for the community, because I know for a long time, and I know personally from, not to pat myself on the back, but stuff that I've done and contributed to the community, a lot of it goes very I don't want to say unappreciated, but it's a thankless job. Yep. And you do a lot of things where a lot of people don't recognize the countless amount of hours and stress and energy that you put into these things, all for the benefit of the sport in general and for something that we just love. So, personally, I just want to thank you, because I see all that you're doing with Loopkicks and the brand, and more so what you're doing with tricking as a platform in general. And I'm stoked to see what the future brings for you guys.
Thanks, man. Me too.
Hell yeah. So before we get out of here, can you just look into this camera and let people know where they can stay up to date with not only you, but Loopkicks and everything you got going on?
All right. So I have a bunch of these. So Instagram, we have Loopkicks Tricking. Me personally, I have Thundertijo. And then we have Learn Tricking is the one I put like a lot of content off of. We also have Tricking Class, which is, again, that collaboration between Loopkicks and C8 Tricking where we do that online class. And everything else, just loopkickstricking.com.
Perfect. We'll put them all on the screen.
Awesome. Perfect.
Make it easier for everyone. Hell yeah. Yo, so with that being said, guys, please be sure to hit that like button, comment, subscribe for brand new episodes each and every week. Join us every Monday for Jam Breakdowns and every Friday for brand new JAMCast, interviewing influential members of the movement community like Mr. Mark Rusmantijo himself. Dude, I was stuttering over the last name.
It's all good.
Yo, so with that being said, guys, I got to give one more very special shout out. Thanks for coming through, Mark. I appreciate it.
Of course, man.
Hell yeah. And as always, guys, coming through, I'm your host, Travis Wong. Thanks for joining us here on another JAMCast. Until next time, we'll see you all soon. Peace.